Guides. Okay, so let's move on to some tools. So these are our flyouts and our panels. Oh, the other thing I was going to show you. I've kind of created a limited working set here. If I want to save this set so that this is my basic tool set every single time I start, I can go back up here to my window menu to workspace, and I can manage workspace, or I can create a new workspace out of this. You see, I've got a bunch of them that I've saved already up here, which I kind of want to get rid of. But if I say new workspace, I just give this a name. Maybe I do RK Basic Workspace. Anytime I ever do stuff like this, I usually prefix it with my initials so that I know that they're custom. Do that, say OK. And now when I go to my window menu, workspaces, here's my workspace that I created. So I can always go back to that if I want to. All of the Adobe apps work the same way. You can create workspaces in exactly the same method. All right. Okie doke. So let's go take a look at some tools here. And we're going to start at the top. We're just going to look at this top set of tools, I think. We already looked at our artboard tool. So let's take a look at the top two. These are our selection tools. The first one is, and actually, I'm just going to briefly explain them right now. We'll use them when we get down here a little further. So the first one, the dark one, they're both the same shape. This is our selection tool. It allows us to select any object on our artboard and manipulate it, move it around. The direct select tool also allows us to select art elements on our artboard and move them around, but it also allows us to select parts of those elements, which I'll show you in a moment. So this is consider the selection tool a very broad brush. It allows you to grab an object and move it around, even manipulate it, resize it, rotate it, that kind of thing. The direct select allows you to actually act on its points, lines, that kind of thing. So the selection tool itself, if you tap V on the keyboard, that's a quick select for the selection tool, the letter V. The letter A is quick select for the direct select tool. So if I tap A, my direct select tool will be selected. And we'll look at those here in a moment. I'm skipping the pen tool for now because I don't want us to even touch the pen tool for the first two exercises. The next one down, though, looks like the pen tool. It's called the Curvature Tool, and it allows us to curve objects or apply curves to objects we already have. So I'm pointing it out primarily because I'm going to use it on something, just so you can see it. The next one down is these are our primitive shapes: rectangle, ellipse, polygon, and star. Many objects, almost anything, we can create by breaking them down into their basic geometric shapes. And that's what we're going to kind of look at here to start. So, but you can see there's a little letter next to them. If I tap the M key on my keyboard, that'll give me my rectangle. L will give me the ellipse. The backslash will give me the line segment tool. Polygon and star don't have them by default. But we're going to work with these a lot. Notice here too that since this pop out is here, on the edge, there's this little arrow and a little dark edge. If I click on that, I can actually tear those tools off and float them on my artboard and access them that way. They're still available here. It doesn't remove them, but I can create a duplicate of that out here so I can quickly get to them. So it's kind of a handy, neat little feature. But we're going to look at these tools in conjunction with these other tools here. I'm going to skip the paintbrush and I want to skip type for the time being. And I'm going to go down here to the one right below type. Mine is rotate, but if I click on that, there's all these other tools behind it: rotate, scale, reflect, and shear. The icon you see The icon in the toolbar will be the last tool you used. So if I switch this to scale, that's what's going to show there. If I click and hold, it brings that up. It also has this little tear off on it. I can click on that and pull this up here as well too. Some people like having those available, some don't. I prefer using the key commands to bring them up, but different ways you can work, you know. It's flexible, work the way that works best for you. And that's it. Those are all the ones we're going to look at. So I'm going to actually hide the transform tools. I don't want those for right now. I'll leave my primitive tools up here. So let's start off with, I'm going to grab a rectangle tool and just draw a rectangle out here on my artboard. And then I'm going to go to my properties panel and I'm going to change the fill to black, and I'm going to change the stroke to none, which is the box with the red slash through it. So I have this object here on my artboard. All right? And it's just a primitive shape. So let's talk about modifier keys here real quick before I go too far. I'm going to slide this up out of the way and go back to my rectangle tool. I'm going to draw another one out. But before I do that, my shift key and my option key, are those the only two? Yeah. Shift key and the option key will change the way that this behaves. So if I hold down my shift key, click and drag, that will constrain that object to a perfect square. So if I want a square, hold down my shift key, that'll constrain it to a perfect square. The shift, if I let go of it, hold on my shift key, click and drag out. If I let go of my shift key, now I can do whatever I want to with it. But if I hit my shift key again, that'll constrain it. If I want to make sure that it's a perfect square, a perfect circle, or whatever else, depending on the tool I use, I want to make sure that I release my mouse button first before I release the key. And the order that we do these things in matters a lot. So I can constrain an object that way. So I'm going to delete that and do this again. With my rectangle tool, if I hold down my option key and then my shift key and click, it's going to draw my shape out from the center. You know, it's the first time I did it, it did it from the upper right. Now with my option and my shift key selected, it's drawing that shape out from the middle, which is handy to know. And again, release the mouse button first, the keys second. I can also just hold down the option key and I can draw out a rectangle from the center point. So the option and the shift key. And I'm going to come back to those over and over again. Those two keys are pretty key. No pun intended, I guess. But we can do that. All right. Any questions so far? Those same modifier keys work for the ellipse. They work for the polygon tool, star, any of these. They work for them all. Here's another thing the shift key does. Just like it did when I was looking at artboards, if I've got this object and I want to move its position, if I hold down my shift key and if I click on it, I said order matters. If I click on it, hold down my shift key and drag, that'll constrain it on a horizontal line. If I drag it up, that'll constrain it above or to 45 degrees, that shift key. So if I want to have multiple objects here, you know, I can make sure that I constrain them that way. And just like I did with my artboard, if I click on my object, hold down my option key and drag it, I can duplicate it. It's an alternative to doing copy paste. And again, click on it, Option, hold down the Option key, hold down the Shift key. That'll duplicate it, constrain it out to 90 degrees, either horizontally or vertically, or on 45. Different ways of working with them. Any questions on that? Okay, so I've got this. Let's take a look at our selection tools. So I've been working with my regular selection tool, if you noticed. But if I go to my direct select tool, before I do that, let's do one other thing. I am looking at my artboard right now. See my black squares on my white artboard. I'm looking at it in preview mode. If I hold down my Command key and tap the Y key, that will switch me to outline mode. Again, something you'll see me do a lot. Hold down my Option key and hit Y again, and that'll return me to preview. Here's why I'm showing you this now. I'm looking at this in outline mode. Yeah. If you hold down your Command key to bring up outline mode.
Yeah, bring the outline back. It's still white background.
So if you hold down your Command key and then tap Y, that doesn't change the. Or did you have, what kind of shape did you have on your artboard? Is it a white box with a black fill or a black stroke, or does it look like mine?
Black fill, but I got that.
Okay, you got it?
Yep.
Okay. So Command Y toggles between outline and preview mode. Here's why I point this out. I'm going to go to outline mode. Any object that we place on our artboard is a path, and this matters in Illustrator. It's simply a path. I can decide to give it no fill and no stroke, but it's still present in my artboard as a path. I just can't see it. So basically I'm drawing out shapes with a path. If I go to if I hit Command Y, go back to preview mode, now I can see this because I have a fill applied to it, or I might have a stroke applied to it. These are appearances. The appearances is what makes them visible. And again, kind of matters because later on, there's some other tools we're going to look at here that allow us to apply appearances, but never change our basic shape. So I kind of want to point it out right now. Command Y, I toggle back and forth on my keyboard all the time. So you'll know when you see this, when you see whatever I'm doing, start going like this, that's what I'm doing. I'm hitting the Command and the Y key to look at outline mode real quick. All right? You can, like I said, you can create virtually any shape, any object out of primitive shapes. So, and if I use my direct select tool here, so I'm going to select this white one, or you can tap A on your keyboard, select the white one. I want the direct selection tool. Now, not only can I click and drag on the object, but I could click on a point of this object and move these around. All of a sudden, my cube is now a cursor or an arrow. Pretty handy. Or maybe it becomes the hull of a boat, a very simple cutout construction paper kind of way, but I can manipulate my shapes with this direct select tool. I can even click on a line that's between 2 points. So if I click on just this edge and drag it, I can drag that entire line up in different positions. Slide that up here out of the way a little bit. So every shape is made up of points and lines. That's what makes it a vector object. basically Illustrator plots those points and then creates the line between them. So then we can access each of those. Yeah.
When you said click on the right arrow, like change, and you could put a point on it and like make it sharp like that.
Okay.
I think I missed that step.
So when I click on the white arrow and I come down here to my shape, if I click right on a corner, click on that and drag it.
It's not doing. Oh,
There you go.
every time I ask you something.
You get it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I can drag those around and change the shapes. I can do the same thing if I grab my ellipse tool and draw a circle out here. I can also use my direct select tool, the white one, to click on this point, and you'll see the circle has handlebars attached to it because this is a Bezier shape. It's got curved lines. If I click on these handlebars, I can change this shape as well in a variety of ways. Move the points around, do what I need to do. So, I'm just going to kind of pull this stuff out of the way. So the last thing I think with these, I'm just going to keep one of these on the artboard. If I select this, I'm going to go back to my direct select tool. You'll notice that on these corners, there's also this little white dot, this little widget. If I click on one of those and drag it, I can round over my corners. I'm going to undo that. If I select just one point in the shape, just select like this upper corner, I can round just that single point. So I can round things, round over shapes that way. All right. So the reason I kind of show you this is that you can, just like when you draw, just like with drawing, one of the basic ways they teach people to draw is to look at an object and try to break it down into its most basic shapes, right? So if you take a look at any object, break it down into its simplest shapes, we can quickly rough out an object if we need to. So the first two assignments we're going to do by using nothing more than primitive shapes like this, along with the other tools that I've just showed you, the pathfinders, the align tools, and that kind of thing. So the one thing I didn't show you yet is the curvature tool. Again, I'm just going to work with this object. If I come down, so it's the fourth one, it's the pen looking tool with a little line coming out of it. If I click on that object, that tool, come over here, and I'm just going to click on one of my lines on this shape, click and drag, I can apply a curve to those objects. And I'm going to click on this bottom one, drag it up. And if I go back to my direct select tool, I'm just going to click on this corner and I can round that over. I started from a cube. It looks nothing like a cube at this stage, does it? This set of tools is allowing me to manipulate things this way. So there's a tendency for most people to go straight to a pen tool and start trying to draw out shapes. The problem with that is that you really have to know how to use the pen tool before you really start doing that. And we're going to spend a class on that one. We always want any shape we create to be made up as few points as possible. So if I take a look at this shape that I've created, Command Y on my keyboard, I'm just going to zoom in on it a little bit, you'll see that I've got points making up, I got points here, I've got a point down here, there's a point where I added the curves, and then points on the corners. There should be no more points making up this shape than this. The more points you have in a document in Illustrator, in a file, the bigger the file gets. Illustrator actually plots out those points mathematically and creates the lines between them. That's why when we have an Illustrator file that we place into another document and enlarge, that's why we can enlarge them as much as we want, because it recalculates the points. So we want to have as few points as we can. What I'll see a lot of times, and don't do this part, I'm just going to do it to show you. If I put the letter R here, and I know this typeface does it, and I create the outlines out of this. Oh, it didn't do it. Okay, this one's pretty clean. Let's change that. Let's change this to maybe then we'll do it. Yeah. So this typeface, look at all the points that make up this shape. The problem with all of these points is that if I want to reshape this curve, how simple do you think that's going to be? I got to grab this point and move it, and this point and move it, and it becomes a mess really fast. If I go back to my preview mode, it looks nothing like it did before. The more points you have in an object, the more difficult it is to manipulate. So that's why a simple shape like a circle, 1, 2, 3, 4 points. And I can reshape this if I want. If I want to make a guitar pick out of this, I can do so fairly easily. But if this shape is much more like this one, with all these points, I can't do all of this as simply. So another item that you're going to see on grading rubrics is, does it use does the object use a minimal amount of points? So I'm always kind of looking for that too. Only way you can tell though, switching back and forth between outline mode and preview mode. As we work on things, this is going to become a lot clearer. All right. So let's do something simple here. I'm going to Command 0 on my keyboard will zoom out so I can see my entire artboard. Command 1